Hello and welcome to For the Love of Nature, a podcast where we tell you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. I'm Laura Fawks, Lapole.
And I'm Katy Holloway, and today we're going to be talking about animals and their extreme migration patterns.
Yep, it's the season.
'Tis the season. One of the two of mine are migrating right now, or have migrated right now. The other one depends.
I can't remember for mine.
All right, do we want to do nature news then real quick?
Yeah.
You
want to go first?
I'll go first. Okay, I have not had enough coffee yet this morning. All right, so mine is from sciencenews.org, and the title is How Catching Birds Barehanded May Hint at Neanderthals' Hunting Tactics.
It's a long
It is a long, I mean, not the longest one that I've had, though, to be fair. But the article title in itself isn't all that exciting. However, let me read the first paragraph. Juan crouched in the shadows just outside a cave wearing his headlamp. Period. For a brief moment, he wasn't an ornithologist at the Spanish National Research Council's Doña Biological Station in Seville. He was a Neanderthal, intent on catching dinner. As he waited in the cold, dark hours of the night, crow-like birds called caws entered the cave. And so they role-played it. There's a group of scientists that straight up role-played being Neanderthals and catching birds that are flying into the cave.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't get much more nerdy than bird people. So,
no,
like,
it does.
The fact that they're role-playing doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, true. Very true. But I guess they did this...
Coming from nerds, like,
yes,
coming from some nerds.
Full respect. But, so I guess they started to do this because they found some caves that the Neanderthals frequented, and there was evidence suggesting that the ancient Neanderthals chowed down on the birds. Like, there were tools in there, and how the bones were and everything. I think it says something about that they saw teeth marks. Am I imagining that?
Maybe cut, like maybe they're cut up.
Yeah, cut. So anyway, so they decided to act like Neanderthals, wielding bare hands, and just started catching these suckers. And they were successsul.
So I guess it just gives them an insight into how they did it.
Yeah, because the birds would flee into these dead end areas of the cave, and they would just be easily caught barehanded,
like fish in a barrel,
right? And so they just would snag them and bag them and just keep them for food for later. So yeah, but there is a quote in here. Let me find it. There's another scientist, Ruth. Here it is, Ruth Blasco. She said role play as far in regards to role playing, it's commonly used by scholars as a valid analogy to infer processes that happened in the past. I have read a lot of research and articles, and not once have I ever come across anything that's scientists role playing.
I was just thinking, I bet
recreating, but not like role playing.
Yeah. Like I bet archaeologists often do it. I bet. Because, how does this atlatl work? Okay, let's try it out. That kind of thing. But I've never heard of, biology.
No.
Natural science people doing it.
And we're weird.
No, I know. It'd be so great.
We're the odd ones. We're the ones that have, just that bizarre sense of humor anyway. And
I'm just imagining, all the natural sciences role-playing. Okay, an ornithologist, they're okay, how does this courtship ritual work? Let's role play it.
Let's do it. First, fluff your feathers. Yeah. Second,
shake that butt. Yeah. Dance, moonwalk. Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Do you like it? Do you feel sexy? No? Okay, maybe this isn't how it happens. Goodness. All right, what's yours?
Mine's actually pretty similar in that it's dealing with early man. It is...
Okay, so I one of two things are happening here. Either one, we're on the same wavelength here of our brains, which is highly likely, or two, it's because you, me, and Kim are constantly sending articles back and forth that our algorithms are just matched up, which is the most likely scenario here.
I think that's probably true, because a lot of times I'll be like, oh yeah, I already saw that.
Yeah.
So this is the world's most dangerous bird, raised by humans 18,000 years ago, study suggests.
Ooh.
This is from CNN. And if you've listened to any of our earlier podcast episodes, the cassowary has come up multiple times.
Hell yes.
It is the world's most dangerous bird. It says because of its long dagger-like toe. So they don't call it a knife. They don't call it a toe knife, but they do say dagger-like toe.
Just go all the way, toe knife.
Yeah. It says that they found more than 1,000 fossilized eggshell fragments from 2 rock shelters, suggesting that early man collected the eggs and hatched them to raise the chicks. They think it was probably dwarf cassowaries, which is the smallest of the 3 species. But it's still a big bird. Yeah. It's the largest vertebrate on New Guinea. And they used its feathers and bones and meat. So they know that it's from that long ago because they carbon dated the eggshells, and it's anywhere. They ranged from 18,000 to 6,000. So either that's the range that they're all the same age, or that they happen eggshells over that long of time. I don't know. But it's way earlier than the first domesticated chicken, which they think was domesticated about 9,500 years ago.
I mean, to be fair, if I had a choice between domesticating a chicken or a badass, survival bird,
Absolutely.
I would do it as survival bird. Hands down.
Oh, for sure. You should look up the article because it goes on and on and on, and it says like the subtitles are not for snacking, big bird as valuable resource.
I mean,
and it says that people may have hunted the male and then collected the eggs because males don't leave the nest unattended. They also don't feed much during the incubation period, making them more vulnerable to predators. Ooh, brutal, but cool. Yeah. I forgot that they're like ostriches and that the male incubates.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's my nature
cassowary.
news.
You can keep your polar bear for post-apocalyptic. I'm going to take cassowary. Just with our half-shaved heads. Just
totally
riding into the sunset.
By the time the apocalypse happens, I might not even get a full purebred polar bear. Mine might be like what do they call them? The growler bear. Part grizzly, part polar.
Yeah.
A growler bear.
Growler bear. Man, I don't know if that would be better or worse.
I don't know.
I feel like
that'd be more adaptable.
Yeah, more adaptable, but I also feel like, I was going to say, I feel like grizzlies can have a more aggressive streak than polar bears, but I think it's just because of their crossing with humans.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Migration. How many do you have? I have 2.
I have 3.
Okay.
So I go first?
Yeah, you should go first then.
Okay. All right. I've got 3. And they're all very different. I tried to choose some lesser known migrators.
Me too.
Because a lot of us, we've already talked about monarchs on this podcast, and everybody knows about other certain species.
Although Kim did tell me that you took one of mine.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I will be interested to see which one. Okay, so I chose a bird, a reptile, and an insect.
It was the bird.
Okay. Wow, what are the chances of all the birds?
I mean, that is it's a pretty cool bird.
Yeah, it is. I took care of some at the zoo once. They didn't seem that cool.
Well, now everybody wants to know what it is.
Right. And it is the bar-headed goose. Everyone's now really disappointed.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's just a goose. I was so excited for a goose. Don't worry, I do talk about a bird, and mine is way cooler than a goose.
Okay, well, I wonder, my other choice was longest migrator, or farthest.
Mine is similar.
Okay.
To the farthest.
So this one isn't the farthest, this one is the highest.
Yeah. Which is how I know about it.
Yeah. A little bit of natural history. So this bird ranges, it lives in Mongolia, southern Russia, western China, Tibet, Kyrgyzstan, sorry everyone from Kyrgyzstan, and India and Bangladesh. It lives in mountain grasslands and wetlands. if you're trying to picture this goose, it's got a gray body.
It looks like a goose.
Yeah, it looks like a goose.
Think of a goose, and that's what it looks like, a goose.
With a gray body, black and white neck, and it has U-shaped black bars on its neck, which is why it's called a bar-headed goose, and it has orange legs. It feeds on grasses and crops, lives in large flocks, and lives about 20 years. So, what makes this goose extra special? Because we all know that, like here in the United States, where everyone is very familiar with Canada geese and their migration, this one is way more extreme. So, these birds migrate twice per year up and over the Himalayan mountains to and from their breeding grounds on the Tibetan, and I'm going to butcher it. Is it Qinghai? How do you pronounce a Q?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I think you're right. You're close enough.
Plateau. Apologies.
Just skip a plateau.
So the up and over the Himalayan mountains,
which is nuts.
Tallest mountain range.
Yeah.
So they like.
Can you imagine though? Like you train your whole life to climb Mount Everest. You're like ready, and then you just see like these dumb geese just
up and over,
just whatever.
And they look back and they're like, "We do this twice a year."
Yeah, right. Suckers.
So like most birds, they do fly in a V or a J shape, which reduces the drag when they're flying in the air. So why is it so amazing? Well, I said the Himalayan mountains. But
yeah, I was like, you can just stop there.
But to put that in perspective, they migrate the highest altitude of any bird. I read from anywhere from 12,000 feet in the air to more than 23,000 feet. Which is the maximum height that a helicopter can fly. So if a goose and a helicopter flew up as high as they could, they get about the same. I'm
telling you, we really need to start this like animal comparison of measurements.
Totally.
Because it was like...
You're right. As high. This is a new one. As high.
as high as a
bar-headed goose.
Because the other one was like with the islands, with the birds in New Zealand.
Yes,
and it was
as far as a rat could swim, and as fast as Laura can run.
Yeah. Continue.
So at this altitude, there is less than 1/2 of the oxygen in the air that is found at sea level, down to almost 1/3 of the oxygen. So
I'm already feeling an asthma attack coming on.
Right? So anything that lives in the Himalayan mountains usually has to compensate for this insane lack of oxygen. And if you're going to try and climb Mount Everest, you have to acclimate because your poor lungs, you need O2.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't you have to take canisters up the mountain?
Well, you can. Some people do not, but that's like it all depends on your own body and your physical training, and so. But they do have oxygen that they take up, but not everybody needs it.
Gotcha. So yeah, barely any air, and they're doing like the most exertion you can possibly imagine. Because like climbing Mount Everest, I'm sure hard, but you can like pause. If you're flying over the Himalayas, there is no pausing, or you'll crash into a mountain.
Yeah. Well, and you can't really, because you can't really stop, but there's no really point to stop, because the only time that they would really stop would be to feed.
Right.
Or sleep.
Yeah.
And I do remember reading at one point that the flight over the the highest peak, they don't sleep during that or something like that.
They do not stop at all. This is a non-stop flight. Okay, which is insane.
Yeah.
So they fly in a roller coaster pattern. So scientists noticed that they were going up and then down, and then they go up higher and then down, and then so this allows their poor little hearts to take a break and save at least some energy. So like they don't stop, but they go down and take a breather and then come back up and then do it again. So their poor little hearts. They follow mountain ridges to take advantage of wind deflection.
Hang on, wait, Laura, is your mic picking you up on your end? Because it's not doing...
Yes.
Okay,
It is on mine.
On your screen, it's like showing your mic?
Yeah, the green showing up.
Okay, because on mine it's not showing up, and I had another panic for a second. Okay, continue.
Yeah, that would suck. Not again. So they fly along mountain ridges to take advantage of wind deflection, but that is not the same as... Like, they fly with zero tailwind, so there's nothing pushing them forward. They're just not fighting the wind. It's being, deflected. So they've got no wind to help them. They also don't soar, meaning that they beat their wings nonstop for up to 17 hours.
Which is also, like, really stupid from an evolution perspective. Because the bird that I'm going to talk about is fully adapted for what it does. But, like, that, like, first of all, it's a goose. Yeah. Like, let's just call it what it is. They're just...
Call it like it is.
It's just a goose. So, I mean, it's not too shocking that, their evolutionary brain cells didn't click into, maybe this isn't the most efficient way to do this right now.
I know. I can't believe the energy cost makes it worth it.
Right?
And like, okay, 17 hours is the most extreme. Usually it's 7 to 8 hours. But still, 7 to 8 hours of nonstop flying sounds exhausting. That's just 7 to 8 hours of nonstop running.
Yeah.
But actually more. So not only would this be exhausting under normal circumstances, but keep in mind that they're working with very little oxygen. Yeah. And when there is little oxygen in the air, I didn't know this, but lift is harder to create because the air is so low, it has such low density.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So they're like, everything is against them. Everything. Yeah. Lift, there's no lift, so they're fighting that. They're
again, though, that goes back to the evolutionary thing, though. Like, what stupid goose?
The payoff. I can't believe it.
Yeah, because it had to have started somewhere. Like, is the payoff really worth it that you can't get that same payoff somewhere closer or a different direction?
Yeah. Right. Because, it's not like, I don't know.
Go south. Don't go north. Go south. Like...
So they also, they do have a couple of adaptations to help them take advantage, but not a ton. They do have bigger lungs to help with, and they have special hemoglobin, which is your blood that carries oxygen. So theirs is adapted to carry less, like to use oxygen more efficiently. So they do have a couple of things, and they fly mostly at night to stay cooler, and take advantage of higher air density because at night it's at least a little bit higher. But it's still an incredible waste of energy. They have the highest sustained.
That's what's so shocking about this is how dumb a goose is. Because it's not. It's nothing about this is intelligent.
It doesn't seem like it. Although I guess we'd have to ask the geese. I don't know.
Excuse me, goose. Is it worth it? Is it worth it?
Wouldn't it be? What if they're always disappointed?
Yeah.
Like every year the fledglings are like they're going to the promised land, and then they get there and they're like, "This was it."
Yeah, all that work for this.
They also have the highest sustained climbing speed of any bird, which is 1.1 vertical kilometers per hour. So they're climbing very quickly to get up over the mountains. Man. So why do they do this? As we were saying, who knows? But probably to get to their breeding grounds, which they've just decided has to be this plateau. Yeah. And that their migration
has a great view.
Yeah, that's it.
It's for the view.
It may be triggered in order to miss the summer monsoons and the worst winter storms. So I guess they're dodging weather, but it just still seems really extreme. Because, okay, sure, they're dodging the worst winter storms, but they are flying up and over the Himalayan mountains to do
right? So. Yeah.
Like you said, go the other direction. Come on.
there's if you're going north, there's, 3 other directions that you could possibly go. So, oh, goodness.
And that's the incredible migration of the bar-headed goose.
Dumb geese. Alrighty, well, the first one that I'm going to talk about is the African straw-colored fruit bat.
Ooh.
Yeah, bats. I do really love bats. Bats and whales. Bats and whales and bats and whales and bats and whales and birds of prey. Definitely my favorite. Laura liked it. Yeah. Alrighty, so the straw-colored fruit bat, Ildilon helvum, is a large fruit bat that is the most widely dispersed of all the African megabats, hence why I chose...
Oh, megabat's such a cool word, too.
Right?
Megabat.
Megabats. But that's why I chose this for the migration episode, because it is very widely distributed, but there's still not a lot known about it, and I'll get into that. Called straw-colored fruit bat due to the bright orange, yellow, or brownish fur surrounding their throat, and then it stretches onto like the back of the neck, and they cover special glands which produce a specific musky smelling fluid. And if you've ever been around fruit bat, like fruit bats do tend to have a funk odor about them.
Which definitely makes them seem more like flying foxes, because foxes are smelly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. So this substance is usually brighter in color and more noticeable in males. These bats are quite common throughout the area, ranging from southwestern Arabian Peninsula across forest and savanna zones of the sub-Saharan Africa. Pretty much if you're in sub-Saharan Africa, literally from like the Sahara Desert stretching south, you're almost guaranteed to be in their range.
Oh.
Except for there's like one spot in Namibia and Botswana that just like, they don't exist. I don't know what these bats have against Namibia and Botswana, but their range is literally all south of the desert except for those two countries.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they're highly social species which live in large groups like many other bats. Since this is a megabat, this means the species uses not only sight but smell to find food. The bats they'll eat bark, flowers, leaves, nectar, and fruits, hence the name fruit bat. With such a healthy diet, it's no wonder that they can live to 15 to 20 plus years easily.
So cool.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize how old bats get, because 20 years is a long
people think
time.
of them, I think, a lot like mice. Like, you don't...
Yes. Well, and I know there was a micro bat once, and I think it lived to be more than like 40 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that is pretty crazy. Anyway, but the longevity is also crazy because they only typically carry one pup at a time. So it's not very like breeding efficient either, because if you're only allowed for 20 years, you carry one pup at a time, you know, like a 1-for-1 payoff. It's anyway. So they're but they are near threatened status on the IUCN Red List. Largely in fact, because they do have such a low reproduction rate of only one pup at a time. They breed from April to June, and since they're in large social groups, it's assumed that they're polygamous. And I don't know. That's just like a tall assumption. That's like literally everything I was finding.
That is a dang
yes.
Again,
they live in groups.
We're shaming them.
Yeah, they live in large groups.
They must
be polygamous. And maybe they just like the company, folks. Like, no shame in that. Yeah. Judging bats. Goodness, scientists. You scientists, you are better than this. Stop judging the groups of bats.
I just imagine it like people, if people live in big groups, I guess.
Oh, clearly.
In a commune, you must all be.
You must all be. Anyway, like many other bats, they are critical pollinators for the ecosystem they live in. Seeing that they are near threatened status is no good at all, and not only for the bats, but the plants and people who depend on the plants in the area. So, let's talk about migration then. Straw-colored fruit bats have the largest mammal migration in all of Africa. And when I say large, I mean it in both the number of bats and the distance.
Cool.
So earlier I mentioned that they are social animals. Their colonies range from 100,000 to upwards in the millions of bats. So
it's like unfathomable numbers.
But also, okay, just pause here for a second, because remember they're mega bats. So they're essentially small dogs. Yeah. They're small dogs, so it's like a flying herd of puppies.
Well, that's adorable.
Right. I mean, I would completely stand in a field surrounded by like fruit and just like open arms to be like,
puppies.
Come on, puppies, come to mama. That would be weird, but it is very tempting.
Yeah.
So I did say this is the one that is happening now. So every October to December, so right now. So if anybody wants to donate for me to go to Africa, I'm 100% game. We can start planning now for coverage of this next year. Anyway, just before October through December, around 8 million bats migrate across Africa, all to one single location, the Kansaka National Park in Zambia.
What? So they in one spot?
Okay. Not only do they go to some massive national park, no. They all decide to go to this massive park and cram 8 million bats all into just under 2.5 acres, or about 1 hectare. Yeah. So it's not only 8 million. So they live like their groups. So the colonies, 100,000 up to a couple million or a million or so, whatever. But then like they all come and congregate.
Which is so funny. It's just like a giant family reunion.
Yeah, right. Every year. Just like, come on, get the kids. Yeah, let's go.
Dude, the noise, the poop, the smell.
Everything.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Is it the same acres every year? Or
It's the same exact spot. And I'll get to it in
I wonder when they're not there if you can see the line of different, like you'd think like once you get to those 2.5 acres, everything would be so lush and verdant.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah. Well, I'll get to it in a second here too. So anyway, but that's a lot, and it's like again 8 million.
Sorry, it's like the Garden of Eden. You're just walking, and then boom, Garden of Eden.
Yeah, right. Just lush and beautiful.
There's fruit trees everywhere. It's just bat paradise.
Yeah. But they do come to the national park and to this one specific location because of the fruits that bloom here after the first rains. So as soon as it rains, boom. And these trees, they're the pods of mahogany, muscu, mufina, and milkwood. So scientists, other than
those M trees,
right? So scientists, other than this one time where they all come together, they're not entirely sure where all these bats spend the rest of the year, other than like the general habitat distribution, like what I said. But when they arrive, they're all in various different stages of life. So some are mating, some are pregnant, some are young, some are old. It just completely varies.
It's a family reunion.
It really is.
I solved it.
Yeah, I solved it. They send out invites every year. But the migration is believed to be strictly for food because they're clearly not coming here to breed. Right. So they do think it is just strictly for food, bought by that big first rain. So most mammals in general typically synchronize their life cycle. Like they have the same breeding, seasons, which is for so many mammals is in the spring. So because these guys are all coming in and they're at different life stages, this kind of points to that they are in fact coming from very different geographical locations. Yeah. Like very far away, because even if you're semi-close in the same area, and they know it's like literally south of the Sahara Desert, they found these animals, or they found the bats, but they have to be coming from far away if their like life cycles are completely like off kilter from each other, like not even close. So they're coming from like very, very far away is my assumption. I came across a couple articles that talked about it, but not very many. So scientists do also have a guess that they live deep in the rainforest elsewhere in Africa. So that's probably why we don't know a ton about like these bats, because like a rainforest is hard to get through anyway, but like African rainforest, there's just no crazy. So anyway, so besides bringing money to the economy, which I know people say could be controversial in this area, because of like the tourists, like people do come to see this, because I thought I said it, but maybe I skipped over it. So to give you just a perspective, like the wildebeest in Africa is what so many people know about, like a big migration. That's only about 2 million individuals, 2 million wildebeest. Only, which is still a ton, but this is 8 million flying puppies. Bless you. So 8 million flying puppies, which is crazy. But so past like the tourist attraction, because people do come to Africa just to see these huge migrations.
I bet.
Like we talked about earlier, by 8 million bats eating all the fruit, and then every night, so they just roost there during the day, and then every night they disperse out. So they really do like poop also everywhere else. And so like this whole region is just filled with like lush fruit and everything. Because of their guano. I mean, so many of these plants.
Seed dispersing.
Yeah, they're the ecological impacts of them, they are near threatened. And if they were just plucked, like the number of other species as well as humans that rely on them, it would be detrimental if 8 million just like wiped off. There would definitely be a huge impact. So, but I don't know why they need 8 million bats in one spot. You know what I mean?
It's excessive.
It's excessive, but you would think that it'd be a little bit better, from an ecosystem standpoint to like spread them out some, but
yeah,
I'm not going to boss the universe around right now. So anyway, that is the straw color fruit bat.
That is amazing. Like, I really want to go and see the monarchs in Mexico. Now I really want to see the bats.
See the bats. Me too. When I saw this one, I was like, this is amazing.
You'd have to be wearing, though, like a rain suit and like an umbrella.
So I was doing some research. You can go to this national park, and they do have blinds that you hide behind.
Okay.
And then because they do try to keep people like away.
That's good.
Which is good. But so they have like talked about like the best viewing benches to sit and watch them from and everything too. But yeah, this is definitely on my bucket list now of places to go. And it's October through December, which is like a great time of the year, for going over there. I mean, I definitely on my bucket list now. Make it happen. Send us to Africa for next year. If anybody would like to donate a few thousand.
Patreon.
Yeah, right. Alrighty.
Oh my. Well, I can stay on the Africa theme. I'll skip down to my insect. I have two insects, but they're both dragonflies.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was like, everybody knows about monarchs. What other insects migrate? Dragonflies do. So the one in Africa is the globe skimmer, or globe wanderer, or wandering glider. It has a whole bunch of names. And it's not even just Africa. It ranges all over the world. It just mentioned Africa a lot. It lives in rainforests and stream edges. It's yellow-red in color, and it's about half an inch long. So half-an-inch migrator.
Gosh.
A half-inch migrator.
Way cooler than tiny.
Yeah. And then, so the globe skimmer is the longest migration of anything, or any insect. So it beats the monarch. It's an annual multi-generational migration of 11,200 miles. So
that's pretty far for a half-inch insect.
Yes. I can't even, that's unfathomable to fly that far when you're only that long. So it's multi-generational, just like the monarchs, in that there are different stages. Mm-hmm. So one individual flies about 4,000 miles without landing, which is longer than the monarch or any other insect. And scientists believe that they can accomplish this by having increased wing surface area, which improves gliding and means they don't have to flap as much, which saves energy.
Okay.
So they figured it out.
I was going to say, so already they have a half-inch insect has a one-up on a goose.
Yes.
Just putting that out there, folks.
So DNA studies have showed that there's very little genetic diversity among all the populations of the world, indicating that they must regularly interbreed. So some might fly across the Pacific Ocean, stopping at an island to reproduce, and then the next generation joins the transoceanic flight. Wow. So they're migrating that far in different directions all over the planet, interbreeding.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So also they're up on the goose in that they don't go to just one place. They're pretty much wherever they can.
Huh.
And then
which is also smarter.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. The other one, the other dragonfly that's also pretty extreme, and I just wanted to mention, is the green darner, which is our North American one.
Yeah.
Southern Canada, south to northern Mexico, although there is a few other populations in the Pacific Islands, China, and Russian Peninsula. Found along stream edges. This one's a little over 3 inches, so a respectable dragonfly.
Respectable dragonfly.
Males are almost entirely green, while females are green and brown. They may fly in small swarms, whereas the globe skimmers they have no idea about. And so the green darners, they migrate twice a year too, only 900 miles though.
Still.
They don't migrate in large swarms like monarchs do. Very hard to research because they're so small. And they also multi-generational migration. So in the early spring, the first generation flies north from their southern range, lay their eggs, die. Second generation hatches, flies south by September, lays their eggs and die. Then the third generation just gets to stay in the south.
Interesting.
And they think it's probably because of temperatures and daylights that cue to migrate.
Okay, because I was like, right now it sounds like nature has no idea what it's doing.
Right. Yeah.
Go north. Nope, no, go south. Wait, stay.
Hang out. Yeah.
Hang out. Yeah.
And it's believed that and North America has 18 migratory dragonfly species, 9 of which are regular migrants. So I think that's something almost nobody knows about.
Did you know? Yeah.
Why? Like most things that migrate, it's to breed and to find better weather because they need moisture to breed. So rather than avoiding the storms, dragonflies are rain chasers. They're
let's do this.
Yeah, they're like trying to find the wet spots, and that's the dragonflies.
I was so close. I have like one more animal to get through before. I was so close to no sex jokes. Okay. So close. Alrighty. My next one is another animal that is dear to my heart. The albatross. Okay.
When you said soaring, I was like, it's the albatross.
Yep. Laura's gonna die, don't mind
On
her.
hot chocolate.
Alrighty, so the albatross. This one may be a cheat, but we're going to talk about it for a second. Because, okay, so the definition of migration is the seasonal movement of animals from one habitat to another in search of food, better conditions, or reproductive needs.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, let's talk about the albatross. Alrighty, so albatross, they're in the biological family Diomedeidae. Day-a-day. They're the largest of the seabirds. The largest seabird, which is the wandering albatross, has a wingspan of up to 11 feet. So they're big freaking birds as far as wingspan goes anyway. Because they're tall, but they're also still
mostly
short.
wing.
Yeah, it's mostly all wings. So albatross specifically, and I'm just focusing on albatross as a whole. I'll do a breakdown of the different species, but I'm just talking about albatross as a whole.
Yeah.
So they typically hang out in the Pacific Ocean-ish and are absent from North Atlantic oceans. And the reason why that was called out is because there is some fossil evidence that they used to exist in the North Atlantic, but not anymore. So I think that's why it was called out. So they feed on squid, fish, and krill by either scavenging, surface seizing, or diving. Albatross form colonies, nesting for the most part on remote oceanic islands. You'll often see several species of albatross nesting together.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sharing space, very nice of them. So pair bonds between males and females form over several years. So they basically like to get to know each other before settling in. Yeah, they date. Yeah. Wise birds. Just don't rush it. Just do what you need to do. They do a pretty cute ritualistic dance to attract a mate, and if that works, they'll end up together for life. So breeding is in 2 pairs. They'll pair up, but the female if she doesn't get plump enough, then they won't breed. And this all comes back into play later. So I promise. So again, so if she doesn't get plump enough, won't breed. Wise birds. Because basically, if there's not enough resources, go on the baby making, which is smart. They're extremely well adapted to their oceanic existence, so much so that they spend around the first 6 years or more of their long lives, which is upwards of 50 years old or more. But they spend about the first 6 or so without even touching land.
That's insane.
Right? So while albatross roaming remote seas keeps them far from most humans, it doesn't eliminate how badly we've pretty much screwed up their lives and ecosystems.
Of course.
Of the 22 species of albatross, that's how many total there are.
Wow.
All are listed as some level of concern. 3 are critically endangered, 5 are endangered, 7 species are near threatened, and 7 are vulnerable. So they're all listed of some concern. The albatross are threatened by climate change, marine pollution, overfishing, and bycatch. And for those who don't know what bycatch is, it's like when a fisherman is netting or trying to catch one species and then they end up accidentally catching another one instead. And oftentimes it's not good. You can't just release it back. They most likely die. Alrighty, so what about albatross? Albatross migration is cheating then. Well, many say that albatross do not migrate. However, the definition, if we remember, of migration is the seasonal movement of animals from one habitat to another in search of food, better conditions, or reproductive needs. So, if albatross can stay at sea for a very long time, and earlier I said that albatross take about, well, it's 6 years of like being out at sea, and after about year 4, they'll typically find a mate is what they're gunning it for, and that again, female might not breed if there's not enough resources. So albatross do migrate depending on if they are breeding in a breeding pair or not.
Oh.
Or if it's like if there's enough resources or not. So there's like non-breeding pairs and then breeding pairs. So non-breeding birds will stay years out at sea. Breeding pairs will also stay for a prolonged period of time out at sea, but they're looking for food and they'll return to breed. And again, remember, if the girl's not plump enough, no go.
Yeah.
So that right there alone does fit the definition for migration. It's just like the seasonal aspect of albatross migration is prolonged because it's all based upon breeding versus non-breeding compared to the in correlation.
Seasons.
Yeah. Which to them it's just longer seasons.
Right.
And to most animals, a season ends up being based on a calendar year. But
yeah, well, right. I mean, seasons are a construct that we made up anyway. So
exactly. And considering that albatross can fly for more than 118,000 miles in a single year or more, depending on the species, it's no wonder that their definition of seasonal is a little different if you have to fly that far. Yeah. Because you're clearly going very far. And many of the albatross species, too, they're really just circling Antarctica, searching for food. And they'll either like circle right around Antarctica or they'll go like hundreds of miles out and they're still circling the bottom half of the globe. Yeah. But they just keep circling. And that, I mean, that is 118,000 miles in a year. That's extremely far. But when you can fly up to 10,000 miles with only flapping your wings once.
That's insane.
Yeah, you're very efficient at utilizing very minimal amounts of calories. They also can fly up to 50 miles per hour, so they're not doing this migration at a snail's pace either. Right. So whenever they are migrating 50 miles an hour, flap their wings only once every 10,000 miles per hour. So how are they able to fly and or migrate for so long? It's called dynamic soaring. So dynamic soaring is a technique in which albatross, they exploit the vertical gradient of wind velocity or wind shears, and also the temporal variations of wind velocity for sustained energy neutral soaring. So kind of like what you were saying before about the it looks like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That's for heartbeat. These guys do it because they're like
following the currents.
And the waves. Yeah. And so they follow the waves. As they see the waves, it's like wave goes up, they go up. Wave goes down, they go down. And they're just coasting and just soaring and just riding those air currents the whole time. So and that's how they're able to that's how they're able to migrate for so long. And so that gives the albatross like a very pattern and systematic way of flying while using very little energy because again, like so many animals, remember, they go great distances to find food. Right. If they did not need to go to such great lengths to find food, one, they wouldn't have adapted to do it.
Yeah, because they're pretty perfectly adapted to.
They're perfectly adapted to. But also, too, I mean, they would just stick around because why would you leave your breeding grounds unless you absolutely had to? And it's because, like, breeding for a female bird, it is very taxing on her system. Like, to produce an egg.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you do need a lot of resources. And birds are very lightweight. Remember, they have hollow bones. You know, they're not a very heavy bird. And so, laying an egg depletes their weight very quickly. And so, they need to get plump.
Yeah, to be able they won't survive. Because they wouldn't survive laying too many eggs.
They wouldn't survive, and they want to keep passing on their genetics, which means they know they need to survive for several years.
Yeah.
So, but it is the whole point of them migrating is for food, but it is a balancing act. find enough food, go back to the breeding ground. If there's enough resources and breed, yeah. If there's enough, if they're plump enough, if there's enough resources around the breeding ground, that's when they're going to go back. But one thing that I couldn't find is, like, how do they know? Because I didn't find anything about, like, them circling back. I mean, it is, like, once a year. So I don't know if it's, like, they go around once a year, then they, like, check back in, is what I'm assuming. Like,
hey, we're getting close to the breeding grounds. You feeling plump?
How plump are you right now? Like,
that's amazing.
Are you good? I mean, you're looking... Because, again, as the male albatross, then, do you tell you're pair bonded now for life? Which I did find out that... Which is kind of risque, but I did find out a statistic that for the longest time they found that only 1% of albatross, once you're mated for life, or up between 1 and 4% is what I was finding, actually will leave and break that mate for life. So they have no more than a 4% divorce rate. However, when testing the chick's genetics, more than 10% had various genetics that weren't their spouses. So, they might mate for life.
But they're not always faithful.
They're not always as faithful as they seem.
Dang, albatross.
Right? Man. So, anyway.
Maybe they're in an open relationship.
And the scientists just don't know. Maybe they just need to clarify. Yeah, they need to clarify their marriage contracts with the scientists before scientists once again go judging.
Yes.
go judging animals. So anyway, it seems like they like circle back, check to see if there's enough resources. What's the female's condition? Did they find enough food out at sea? And then they come back. And
the one time where the husband can be like, "You're fat," and it's a good thing.
You're fat. Let's do this. Yeah. So again, even though they're typically not seen as migrators, it fits the definition of a migration. If the definition is, that they're, let's see here, they move from one habitat to another, so land to sea, in search of food, check. Better conditions, I mean, that doesn't really talk about that much, or reproductive needs. I mean, if they don't have the weight and the resources internally, but then also externally to be able to breathe, and they're just not going to be able to do it. So even though albatross are not seen as a migrator, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say absolutely they migrate. And 110 or 118,000 miles in a year or more, because there are species that do way more than that in a year. But then to be able to fly and flap their wings only once every 10,000 miles.
That's incredible.
Going 50 miles an hour. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and put albatross in the migration realm of things.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would, because for me too, migration is just animals move pretty far.
Yeah.
For reasons.
Yeah, forget a definition. Yeah, the reasons are their own.
Yeah.
Stop asking, except for the bar-headed geese. We're going to continue to insult them because they're geese, so.
For my last one, I will also still stick to the ocean theme, because for my last one, the reptiles, the leatherback sea turtle.
Oh, okay. Because for a split second, I was like, you're like, I'm going to keep to the ocean theme, reptile. And I was like, what the hell, reptile?
Right?
Sea turtles.
Yeah. So, natural history, leatherbacks, they're my favorite sea turtle, which is why I chose them.
They're pretty cool, yeah.
All sea turtles migrate, but I chose these. They basically can be found all over the world, mainly in tropical waters, but sometimes even in subarctic waters. They live mainly in the open ocean, but are also seen in coastal waters. So, I mean, basically, you can just see these turtles anywhere. They like to lay their eggs on tropical beaches, which is the only time that females come out of the water. They are the largest living turtle, weighing up to 1,900 pounds, and they're 5 to 6 feet long.
Wait, pause. Why didn't either of us choose this for the Could You Ride That?
You're right.
Missed opportunity.
Oh, well, I might have thought us of sea turtle, but there'd be no I mean, come on, a sea turtle would totally let you ride it. There's no challenge to a sea turtle. It'd be like, oh, and then just keep going.
Yeah, they probably would. Yeah.
But it reminds me of in Pirates of the Caribbean, roped a couple of sea turtles.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
so you go to Pirates, I immediately do Finding Nemo.
Okay, yeah. Either
immediately.
One. They have no pronounced shell. So this is when you think of a sea turtle, this is not the sea turtle you think of. As Kim says, this is not the glam sea turtle I was anticipating. Very prehistoric looking. Because it has no pronounced shell. It is just bone that's covered in skin.
Yeah, it looks weird.
Yeah. It's mostly black with white accents. It's a solitary turtle. Mainly it's jellyfish, but also crustaceans, cephalopods, sea urchins, snails, and fish. And it is
and the occasional plastic bag.
I know.
Or straw.
This is the only sea turtle I've ever seen alive. Which
seriously?
That's a weird statement, but when I was doing sea turtle nest checks in Costa Rica, this was the only one that was alive. All the rest had been eaten by jaguars.
To be fair, that's what you were there to study, were the jags,
right.
So fair enough.
The leatherback was amazing. It was like an elephant on the beach. Like, not as big as an elephant, but the equivalent of an ocean elephant.
Yeah,
just huge. So how do they have extreme migration behavior? Well, they have the longest migration of any reptile because they will migrate up to 10,000 miles. They literally cross oceans to go between breeding and nesting grounds and then their feeding grounds. So scientists have found that there are certain ocean areas that are more trafficked than others, which is good because it kind of helps scientists determine which areas need extra protection.
That's what I was saying. I'm sure somebody has this all mapped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because like there's so many other species like that are hard to get a transmitter on. But like again, like if you could ride a sea turtle, you can totally slap a transmitter on that sucker.
Yeah, and it's probably a good umbrella species where it protects, other ones.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Studies show that they have some kind of compass sense as they can stay on track without landmarks and little sensory information.
To be fair, if you're in the middle of the freaking ocean, I mean, besides the stars, you have no other landmarks.
They think it's probably either magnetic or solar.
Interesting.
And that was something that I found with my research with the sea turtle nest stuff. They had some way of knowing where to come up on the beach that the jaguars weren't frequenting. So how could it have been like olfactory?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Heck?
But
could you imagine
psychic turtles? I don't know.
But their little noses just popping. Smells like a jag beach. Move
Not
on.
Coming here. Yeah.
Move on, guys. Move on. They stake out little signs in the ocean. Move on. Next beach. Jags ahead.
Yeah. So, crazy long migrations. Why do they do this? Because females return to the same or nearby beaches as to where they hatched. So they figured, hey, if I made it, my babies can too. Many turtles also show foraging site fidelity, which probably since they know there's going to be abundant food there, I think that turtles make very large assumptions as well.
They do.
Scientists.
That's what I was going to say.
My babies will be fine because I was. The food will still be there.
I mean, that's a very positive outlook on life.
That's so. Turtles are optimists. That's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love it.
If I made it, they'll be fine. It's fine. If there's
optimistic
food,
sea turtles.
I had food there, they'll be fine.
Also a great band name, Optimistic Sea Turtles.
Optimistic Sea Turtles.
So they also they think this is maybe the funniest part. Because they find these places that have a lot of food. How? Probably because of ocean currents, because hatchlings are so weak of swimmers that they are likely swept across the ocean in currents and then have to just return to where they nested and remember where they found food because they can't control where they're swimming. They just get swept around the ocean. And they're like, oh man, I gotta go 10,000 miles back to where I started.
Yeah.
Poor things. And that is the extreme migration of the leatherback sea turtle.
Man, that is a good one because I think that's an often forgotten animal. Like, I mean,
reptiles in general, right? Nobody's thinking
reptiles
about reptiles
really
migrating.
No, but I mean, the sea turtles. I mean, it is one of those like iconic species, but you only remember about it if like you're at a zoo or if you, you know what I mean,
or if you see one, yeah.
Yeah, then you're like, oh yeah, they're in trouble. And then,
yeah,
and then you walk
majorly.
away and never think of it again. Because, the plastic bag thing, I mean, we, jokingly said that, but that's a very serious thing.
Right, because they look like jellyfish, and
they look like jellyfish. And the number of plastic bags that we use is so much, and it's the most useless thing ever. Whenever you can have a reusable bag, like companies, grocery stores, any store, they pay to have those made.
Yeah, well, and thankfully here in Maryland, now they charge 5 cents per plastic bag.
Good, because it doesn't make any sense. It's a completely useless product.
So a lot of people are starting to bring their own bags, which is really nice to see.
Yeah. And that's what, like, people who don't, or who continue to use plastic straws, like, that one irks me, but I can still understand it, because who really wants to touch their lips to a glass?
Yeah.
I mean, the alternative is paper straw. I will say, though, I do have a coworker who hates paper straws.
There is metal straws.
So I have the Final Straw, and my beef with the Final Straw, so Final Straw, if you're listening to this, my only problem is that so if you don't know what the Final Straw is, it's like not a kaleidoscope one, but it like folds down into 4 pieces.
Okay.
And therein lies the problem, because drinks get in between those grooves and then like in and around that plastic tubing.
Ew.
Yeah. So I mean, I've
got some stainless steel ones, but I've only ever used them a couple times.
Yeah, like completely stainless steel ones. Yeah. They're just not like travel friendly. Because what are you gonna do? Like just hawk that in the bottom of your purse? Like just pull out this nasty straw. So like the Final Straw is awesome because it is like really little on a keychain and you unfold it. But that's my only beef, is that around those hinges, there's got to be like something else to do to like close that. But anyway, I do have a coworker who hates paper straws.
They do get soggy very quickly.
They do get soggy, yeah. So, but anyway, plastic bags though, completely useless. Like, it just does not make any sense to use plastic bags.
Nope.
Or a lot of plastic, single-use plastic. That's why it's single-use plastic. It serves no purpose. Yeah. End rant.
Yeah. On these Sunday morning rants.
Right? All right, everybody. Well, that's the podcast. Laura did mention Patreon earlier. If you like to hear what we're doing, please go over and support us on Patreon, because we're at the point now where we're not paying out of pocket for this podcast, which is nice. But we would like to have more guests on and bigger things and get the website freaking finally going.
Yeah, get some merch happening.
Yeah, which we wanted to do for so long now, but
our lives.
Our lives in the way, the dumpster fire, but it's just like it costs to have a website.
Yeah.
And we really do have some hilarious merch ideas.
And I was going to say too, do we want to give a shout out? So we already do have 2 Patreon people.
We do. Yes.
Tracy and Kristen. Thank you so much for your support.
And they've been supporting us for a couple months now, and so thank you guys so much.
With very little return. We very much appreciate it.
Yes. Because we're just 2 goobs with a podcast, but please support us, because Laura and I would love for this to be a bigger part of our life, and financial support obviously helps us make that to be able to happen, a bigger part of our life, and pump out more content and just devote more time to it. So, Laura, do you have something else to add?
She says, I think you guys need to wrap this up.
Yeah, right? She's already pooped twice since we started recording this. So, alrighty. So head on over to Patreon and support us over there. Until then, we will talk to you guys next week.
See you next week.